Greetings from Seoul, South Korea. My name is Cho Heeyeon, and I'm the Superintendent of the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education. I would like to offer my congratulations on the upcoming 14th Clement Eco Forum, which will be held under the theme of Ecological Civilization and Organic Communitarianism. Although the world is still in the midst of the painful COVID-19 pandemic, and we will be unable to see each other in person, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to meet all of you online and discuss with you on the ecological civilization of the post-COVID era. I'll be speaking on day 4 of the conference entitled Education for Sustainability and Social Change. In my presentation, I plan to talk about the ecological transition education of the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education. Based on the need for an alternative to our economic and social systems and ways of life, and on the wisdom we have gained through the COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot but discuss the need for a new educational paradigm. Our current problems cannot be solved by a narrow set of policies or changes to individual policies, no matter how few disposable product individuals use or how much they recycle. To overcome the environmental disasters which come with the climate crisis, fundamental and worldwide systemic change is necessary, including in our own society. For this to happen, an education transition that promotes wholesale new thinking is essential. Beyond simply teaching ecological content in school, the ecology of education itself should be transformed. We must move away from education which seeks the skills and qualifications needed to ensure more consumption and more ownership, and while producing and consuming within the Earth's ecological capacity, we must move toward education, which aims at ensuring the better life envisioned in the Sustainable Development Goals. This would be a transformative education. The existing system of education and its content and pedagogy must be transformed into a new model in order that humanity can live justly and happily within the bounds of the natural world. We have to reimagine current education for the well-being of the planet. This is what I'm promoting at schools in Seoul through a new policy called Ecological Transition Education. That is, education for the transition to an ecological civilization. Since the last year, our Seoul Education Office has been in the process of implementing a mid- and long-term development plan for ecological transition education, with the aim of zero carbon schools. The school environment will be transformed, and in order that members of the education community can grow into ecological citizens. I'm proposing the ecological transition of the curriculum and the number of transitional tasks. The primary areas of focus will be as follows. Firstly, in terms of classroom lesson innovation, there will be changes to education, which contribute to the development of ecological awareness and sensibility in future generations. Secondly, schools will take on significance as small ecological civilization transition towns, as spaces where ecological transition awareness and sensibility are experienced, experimented with, and practiced as a way of life. Thirdly, to rediscover that education is central to renewal of local economies. The self-sufficient community and the local economy will be combined to create the character of a village education community. As the transition to an ecological civilization, it requires global efforts. Many policies, programs, and achievements of the Seoul Metropolitan government and the Education Office are being integrated from an ecological perspective. And ecological transition education policies have been made in accordance with the international standard of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and UNESCO's Education for Sustainable Development 2030. Ecological transition education is an education that seeks fundamental changes in thought, behavior, culture, and systems for the coexistence of humans and nature and sustainable life. In other words, the key is to evoke an ecologically awakened subject. To this end, our Seoul Education Office is working hard to grow the capacities of the teachers who will be at the center of this new education and to build the foundation for its realization. Our aim is to see that in their neighborhood and with their neighbors, the voluntary practices of the students who are today's citizens and tomorrow's generation will be the seed which grows into the ecological transition of Seoul. This year, we have implemented a study in rural villages policy in cooperation with schools in agricultural areas and fishing villages, so that students from Seoul who are growing up in the big city can touch and set foot on the soil and develop ecological sensibility. I thought it would be a huge success if only 30 or 40 students applied, but we received applications from more than 100. Currently, 81 students are experiencing rural life in these villages for 1 semester or 2 semesters. I believe this is something that cannot only change our students, but also the consciousness of others with respect to the climate crisis. Moreover, this year we have begun the Seoul-wide implementation of vegetarian choice system, which was called for by the young people from Youth for Climate Change, Korean Youth for Climate Action. This aspect of ecological transition education is the first step in moving beyond the free eco-friendly meals of the last 10 years to carbon neutral meals. In these ways, Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education is taking steps toward on the path to ecological transition education. I believe that education is at the very core of education, ecological transition. I'm very much looking forward to this conference and coming together and sharing in your wisdom for the sake of genuine change and the future of our children. Thank you.